As I search my heart today in addressing you all, my moral and political commitments guide me to say that the only thing that is appropriate to say in this time and to a group this large is a recognition of the atrocities currently happening in Palestine.
So that was a message, the beginning of a message. We will show you more being delivered as a graduation speech by Logan Rozos at NYU that has resulted in, at least as of right now, the withholding of Logan's diploma for saying things that are so incredibly politically incorrect that your 4 years of education might just be wiped away as a result of it. Because they say that he did not comply with school rules when it comes to his speech. And their commitment to those rules is just infinitely larger than their commitment to free speech as a concept, unfortunately. And we're gonna have a lot to say, as some Congress people do, which we will also reveal to you. But first, we wanna give you more of what Logan had to say.
The genocide currently occurring is supported politically and militarily by the United States, is paid for by our tax dollars, and has been live streamed to our phones for the past 18 months. I condemn this genocide and complicity in this genocide.
Obviously unacceptable, should probably be locked up. But when Logan initially talked about the genocide, there were a number of people who you heard applauded. There were actually, apparently in the wider shot, there were some faculty members that applauded as well, although there were some boos too, both in the room and now coming from some representatives, including Representative Jared Moskowitz, who said he lied to the university. Second of all, he lied to everyone listening. There's no genocide going on in Israel.
What a liar Moskowitz is. Ridiculous. He's gonna do an anti-Semitic trope in a minute. Keep going.
There is a war. It's unfortunate. It seems to break his heart. And there are people in harm's way because of what Hamas did. Only Hamas. It is a one-sided conflict. No one else has done anything wrong. Enthusiastic. It was Hamas that set off that gender reveal bomb in a building, I suppose. Yes, there are situations that I wish would improve, like, you know, getting more food into Gaza, which is just an abstract problem. Nobody's causing it. Yeah. Nobody's responsible for the food not getting in there. It's just like, it's far, you know, the roads aren't great. Nobody's blocking the food or the water or the medicine. Nobody's targeting places where it's distributed, where refugees come to get the food. Nobody's blowing up the hospitals. It's all just an act of God. Well, maybe not God. It's an act of nature, I suppose. It's an abstract problem that you can like feel bad about in an abstract way, but don't talk about it. Don't talk about it in front of a group of educated, passionate young people that clearly enjoyed hearing that message. Don't do that. He concludes by saying, but at the end of the day, that's up to the university, whether they give him his diploma or not. You know, in fact, they can give him his diploma. It's not going to matter. Good luck getting a job. That was a stupid, selfish thing. Ruined the ceremony for a lot of families.
Here we were trying to enjoy the genocide, and all of a sudden you come and ruin it by telling us it's a genocide.
It was selfish. He made it all about him.
Yeah.
Well, not him. It was civilians being killed in Gaza, but that's selfish.
I mean, he's just making it about the 53,000 already murdered, including 18,000 children, and the 2.2 million people being starved to death over the last 2.5 months. You see how selfish he is? When me, a lover of Israel, says that his whole life should be canceled, not just his diploma, but he should never get a job again. That's not me being selfish. No. Look, they would have done this if he'd criticized Norway, or if he'd criticized, you know, cantaloupes. It was just because he lied that they were so upset. Yeah, sure. It just happens to be about Israel again. Huh, interesting. So, okay, did you notice the anti-Semitic trope he did there? Basically saying, you'll never get a job again. But wait a minute, that's what people say about Jews. Like if you ever say anything against Israel, Jews will make sure that you never work again. Jews will make sure of this, that, and the other thing. And we say that doesn't happen. And here's Jared Moskowitz, a Democratic congressman, saying, oh no, it will happen. We'll make sure that you never get a job if you ever criticize Israel or you're honest about Israel. That's like one of the most anti-Semitic things a congressman has ever said. Are they gonna censure him? What do you mean he's never gonna get a job? How would you know that? Are you gonna go and talk to every single person who could possibly hire him? Millions and millions of people? What does it mean that you know that he won't be able to get a job? And by the way, it's not theoretical. Billionaires like Bill Ackman have said for anyone going to peace protests, that he circulated a memo in Wall Street saying never hire them. If they dare cross Israel in any way, shape, or form, if they dare be for Israel, for peace, if they dare say that Israel starving children to death is a problem, make sure they never work again. But I mean, what are you talking? But if you said, hey, Bill, aren't you doing the trope? You'd be like, anti-Semite. Come on. That's not anti-Semitic. You know what is actually bigoted? When you say, oh, this guy minds 2 million people being starved to death. They're only Muslims. Who cares? I mean, I care a little bit. Oh, what a tragic starvation. But don't ever mention it, otherwise you'll never work again. You're doing so much damage, not only to everyone, not only to this country. And by the way, if you're a US congressman, maybe you read the Constitution. You know the freedom of speech thing, that tiny little thing in the First Amendment? There's no asterisks unless you criticize my beloved Israel. And yes, I work for them and not the US government. I said it. Why don't you concentrate on the US government, Jared Moskowitz? Instead of, oh, somebody, not in Congress, at an NYU graduation, and not at Florida where he's the congressman, but in New York, said one thing criticizing Israel as they're in the middle of the worst war crimes we've ever seen in our lifetime. Yeah, you better not. There'll be consequences, Moskowitz says. He does more damage to Jews in America than anyone else can do. You gotta cut that kind of talk out, man. Jesus Christ. We're trying to make sure that anti-Semitism doesn't rise while we make sure that Israel doesn't keep killing Palestinians. Those are both very hard tasks. But you're not helping when you go around, if you cross us, Jews will make sure you don't get a job. Why do you say that? Why do you say that? That's so stupid. Now when you go and I go debate whoever the hell comes up, right? The Alex Joneses of the world, not that I'm going to do that, but when they pop up at different things and they say, what do you mean? Moskowitz says they won't give him a job, and Bill Ackman literally wrote a memo saying they're not allowed to get a job. They cancel their careers, they arrest them, they deport them. What do you mean? How can you say that they're not doing this when they're admitting doing it? Moskowitz, you're not supposed to say it out loud, you moron. And what are you gonna do? I mean, that's your threat. That's your threat. So are you gonna go and call up Wall Street and go, make sure you don't hire this guy. He criticized Israel. Cancel him, cancel him, cancel him. Is that what you're gonna do? Because that's what you said. That's what you said. Okay, so no, in this country, God help you. God help you if you criticize Israel. Because these are the monsters out there, Moskowitz, who think genocide is no big deal. Starving kids to death is no big deal. But saying that we're starving them to death, saying that it's a genocide, huge deal, huge deal. You should never work again. No, brother, if you're pro-genocide like you obviously are, you should never work again. The people in that district should fire you. But okay, did I criticize Israel? Go ahead, Moskowitz, go ahead. Even though you were the one who said the anti-Semitic trope. I know what you're gonna say because it's what every vicious supporter of Israel says. Not every supporter of Israel is vicious. People like Moskowitz are vicious. You're gonna say, I got a one-trick pony, anti-Semite. No one should hire Cenk again. I'm gonna call everybody, make sure that he's not hired. Okay, I'm Moskowitz, I'm in charge of the country, okay? No one is allowed to criticize my beloved Israel. You'll all be fired. By the way, I don't do cancel culture. I don't do anything like that. Is that right? Because it certainly looks like it. Maz.
I mean, first of all, that kid was very courageous. Good for him for taking that opportunity to stand in front of all those people and say what he said. And we should be celebrating that as Americans. No matter what side you stand on with Israel and Palestine, you should be celebrating his freedom of speech to say that and his courage to stand up there and actually say it. Now, there was a funny moment if you look at the video where there was a faculty behind him, and when he said something about the genocide, the guy just puts his head down, like he's like, oh no, here we go. But hey, this kid was courageous to stand up there and say that. And the truth is, when it comes to Moskowitz, there's a lot of stuff I've seen of Moskowitz that I like. I think that he does a good job. But in this case, You're absolutely right. What is he talking about? The fact is, they jump on anything that you say. This kid was up there saying, look, I have to take this moment to stand up for justice in this case. And I don't care, again, whether you're Israeli or you're Jewish or you're Muslim or you're Palestinian. We are seeing these killings of innocent people and women and children, and it continues and it keeps going, and you gotta call it out. And I'm surprised at how the blind spot that so many people like Moskowitz have when it comes to this. Where's the humanity? Where is the sympathy that they feel for other people inside this country or around the world? And it just somehow gets lost. I mean, you can't even say ceasefire. You say ceasefire, they go, how dare you say ceasefire? You want Hamas to kill us? No, I don't want Hamas to kill you. I want the hostages to come back. I want the killings to stop. I want the place to be rebuilt. We all want a solution. We want a peaceful solution. But if you look at the facts and you look at Netanyahu and you look at his cabinet and you see that they're far right and they do want the annihilation of Palestinians, then you understand what this kid is talking about and you call a spade a spade. So it's upsetting to me to see some people who are, on the left who don't see that.
I agree. Maybe a couple of points. Yeah, first of all, there's the genocide that we've all witnessed. We just have. If you can't identify this as a 1.5 year long series of intentional war crimes, then war crimes just don't exist anymore in an objective sense. Maybe people you hate can commit war crimes, but there's nothing that's objectively a war crime if what we've seen doesn't count. Let alone that Moskowitz knows that Donald Trump has already announced that they're going to ethnically cleanse Gaza. They're going to ship everyone out. They're going to pack them in cargo containers, send them to some slum somewhere, and steal all their land. And everybody's just pretending that that's not a thing that Donald Trump has promised multiple times and has not been discussed in the Israeli government already. But in terms of the message, let's also acknowledge that this is to some extent a consequence of the overall icing of free speech that we've experienced as a society. NYU is terrified that if it gets out that if he did this speech, and if it gets out, that federal funding could be cut to the university and everyone at the top will be fired. And the reason they believe that is because that's what the Trump administration is doing. And so the reason the Trump administration does it is so that then they're not the only ones that have stifled free speech, but that NYU will try to stifle free speech. Everyone will be so terrified that the massive, implacable boot of government will crush anyone who defies them, that they then do the censoring for them. So I think that's part of why NYU has freaked out so much. But in one final little ironic thing, it's so interesting how incentives work out, because Logan's goal, I assume, was for as many people as possible to hear his message. And the best he could probably hope for was the people in the room, maybe a TikTok or whatever. And I don't remember what the principle is. Was it Bette Midler or whatever that didn't want photos getting out of her house or something? So she kept suing people, and so 1 billion times more people saw the photos than would have otherwise seen it. Like, if they hadn't freaked out, who would know about the speech? Let me ask you a question. This is a graduation ceremony. There's been graduation ceremonies at a lot of universities. What was said at the Rutgers graduation speech? Or BU, Villanova? I don't know, because nobody freaked out about it. But you guys freaked out about it, so many times more people will see it. There's a very real chance Logan Rozos becomes a political player now as a result of this. At least he's gonna be interviewed by a bunch of people. So they have maybe unknowingly made his message 1,000 times more in terms of its reach.
And by the way, of course, you didn't hear about Rutgers or Villanova or anything like that because nobody criticized Israel. But if you criticize Israel, then you're gonna have hell to pay. And this is America. This is America. By the way, if you criticized America, there'd be no controversy at all. You can say the worst things in the world about America, that's not gonna get you in any trouble. So to John's point, okay, everybody's terrified because Trump is saying, I'm gonna cancel your funding, et cetera, et cetera. And then Moskowitz, who's a Democrat, goes, let me help Donald Trump in terrifying everyone. Not only could NYU have all your funding pulled because of my beloved friend Donald Trump here, who agrees with the genocide of Netanyahu and me, like meaning that Moskowitz and Trump agree with Netanyahu's genocide. If you don't cry and tell me you don't agree with it, you obviously agree with it. In fact, you think that anyone who even mentions it should be canceled. So Moskowitz goes, let me help Donald Trump in terrifying everyone. If you mention it, I'll make sure you never get a job, you don't get your diploma, me and all my powerful friends, he says, which I don't believe. But he's trying to terrify you and say, ha 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 ha, the Jews run the world, and we'll make sure you never get a job no matter where you go. Well, I don't believe you, Representative Moskowitz. I don't think that's how the world works at all, right? But you're using that threat in a sick, disgusting way that drives up anti-Semitism. And I don't want anybody to think this is about religion. Governments do terrible things. Netanyahu, and you said Trump, forget Trump, Netanyahu and the cabinet have voted saying there will never be a Palestinian state. Now Netanyahu has said we're going to do an all-out conquest of Gaza Strip. We told you it was always to take the land, and now they've proved us right. But Moskowitz will say, no, they accidentally took the land. Hamas made us take the land. Hamas made us destroy every hospital, every school in Gaza. They made us starve Palestinian kids to death. They made us do it. Oh, we're so innocent and moral, right? And by the way, Moskowitz, it's not we. You're a US congressman. You're not an Israeli Knesset member, okay? But here in America, there's beautiful, brave, bold Jewish Americans who are fighting back for peace and decency. What do they want? They want the same thing I want, a safe haven for Jews in Israel and an independent and free Palestine. Ben Cohen just got arrested in Congress.
Yeah.
That's an American hero. Robert Greenwald doing a movie about how Palestinian journalists are getting killed, and well, every kind of journalist is getting killed in Gaza in record numbers. Dave Smith and Bernie Sanders, and the list goes on and on. So don't think it's the Jews, it's not. It's just monsters like Moskowitz who think that a genocide is no big deal, and if you do enough propaganda, he'll be able to run cover for his beloved Israel. Well, Moskowitz, if it's so beloved to you, why don't you go, okay? Because we love this country, okay? We want to serve this country. If you want to, like for example, I came from Turkey, and I don't know where Moskowitz is from. I assume he was born here, right? I was actually born in Turkey. So and I lived there till I was 8. So normally you say more allegiance, right? Well, Erdogan is stealing democracy from Turkey. I'm criticizing the Turkish government. Can you criticize a government of your own ethnicity? Is that allowed? Oh, you can, of course you can, if you're not biased and you're actually an American and you use objective judgment, but not for Moskowitz. But here's the thing, Congressman, Ben Cohen, Robert Greenwald, us, every decent person can say never again. You, on the other hand, don't tell me never again, but with an asterisk. It's okay if it's Palestinians, because I'm racist against them, and I think they're the violent ones as we just murdered 53,000 people. And you say, oh, it's not murder, there's some Hamas in there. How about the 18,000 kids? I know you've got some sort of excuse. Oh, Hamas made us murder 18,000 kids. And yes, it's murder when you drop a bomb on a child and you light them on fire. Or a concrete slab comes and crushes their head and kills that baby. That's murder. Don't tell me you didn't intend to do it when Israel killed 18,000 children. That was 18,000 mistakes? No, it wasn't. No rational human being believes that. Only propagandists for a sick, genocidal government believe that. And that is not all Israeli governments. That is the current genocidal Israeli government that has announced, yes, we're going to push them out. We're going to ethnically cleanse them. We're going to steal that land. But if you say things that are true that they themselves said and voted on, Moskowitz will say, you're never gonna work in America again. No, you don't get to decide that. You don't speak for all Jews, you don't speak for all Americans, you don't speak for anyone except monsters who love genocide. That's who Representative Moskowitz is. Yeah, I know, Moz is right. I've seen him do other things. Oh, that's clever. Oh, he's got fun little sneakers. And I was fine, and I've complimented him in the past. But if you're gonna come here and threaten all Americans to take away our freedoms and our rights on behalf of another government, then you can kindly F off. Young Turks. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.